listening to Who's Tom and Dick, a weekly podcast with your hosts, Martin Weavers, fighting stage 4 lung cancer, and Patrick Mortimer, living with heart disease. Why not grab yourself a cup of coffee, sit back, and enjoy the chatter as we discuss and share information, talking about tough subjects, and offering help, support, and motivation with a positive mental attitude.
Good morning, Martin.
Good morning, Patrick. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, and happy to be in December.
Yeah.
We've been so busy with interviewees that we've not really had a time to chat ourselves, have we?
I know. So what have we got today then, Patrick?
Well, this is another interview with two special ladies, and they have got a condition called Hypertropic Cardiomyopathy. And I said that one without too much problem.
You did.
So without further ado, let's welcome to Who's Tom and Dick, Bethany and Charlie. Bethany has a condition, and I'm going to try and pronounce this now, called Hypertropic Cardiomyopathy.
Oh, well done you.
Is that right?
Yes.
Bethany, it's over to you, really. Tell us your story from the beginning, please.
Yeah. So when I was 17 years old, I was diagnosed with a deadly heart condition, which Patrick pronounced so correctly, which is hypertropic cardiomyopathy. And so that condition is where your left ventricle wall of your heart is abnormally thick. So it makes it really hard for blood to flow in and out. So it makes you prone to sudden cardiac arrest. I got super lucky that I got diagnosed when I did. Come to find out it was a genetic condition. So my aunt had it. She found out she had it. She told my mom, who there's 9 kids my mom had. And she's like, hey, it's genetic. Go get the kids tested. So my mom got one appointment, which was for my sister that's right below me, Hannah. We found out that Hannah had the condition. And then a few days later, I got diagnosed. And basically from there, my whole life changed. And finding out that you're living with this condition, which is deadly, and knowing that my sister, if it wasn't for her implanted defibrillator, could have died one day in her sleep, just made you feel super, super grateful, but also realize, wow, I'm lucky to be alive, but what can I do to help others so that other people, unfortunately, don't go through the same thing alone, or that we bring more awareness so less kids are dying from this condition?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big thing to take, any age, but in your teens, that must have almost put a hold on your life.
Yeah, so from there, it was immediately on medication to kind of help thin your blood out, to keep it pumping just in case it did, go too high and start pumping and going too fast your heart. And then it was a bunch of wearing, if you guys know what heart halters are, so they put the little stickers on you and constantly monitoring your heart, seeing how it reacts during certain things, what are you doing when you're sleeping? What are you doing when you're awake? And then, unfortunately, my symptoms and the condition, because it has no cure, got worse. Since there's no cure, it's either a heart transplant or an implanted defibrillator. So I ended up getting an implanted defibrillator while I was in college. And that's what I have now. And I'm on my second implanted defibrillator.
How do they actually work? Do they have a separate electric supply?
Yeah, so basically it's like a little box with a wire that either goes in your heart or around your heart. And then if your heart hits what they call your threshold, which is how high your heart can start beating before you're going into sudden cardiac arrest, it shocks you. So I have one of those inside me. So if you know what an AED is, and you see them on the walls of hospitals and schools and different things, it's basically like a mini one inside of you.
Right.
So this is an ICD that you've got inside you?
Yeah, an ICD.
Yeah. So do you think there's many people your age with one of these then, or is it common?
Yeah, I think there's more people than you think realize, especially younger with them. We know so many of them. Charlie knows at the exhibition, we had so many young bionic friends there. And unfortunately, a lot of people look, especially Charlie has a heart condition too, we look so young and people don't think that you can have a heart condition. And it's trying to change that stigma is a huge thing, because unfortunately people are oh, you're young, you can't have a heart condition, or just eat broccoli and you'll be fine. And it's no, this is something that affects me. This is how my heart is structured. It's not because of something I did or didn't do. So yeah, a lot of young people actually have it, more than you would think.
So we ought to bring Charlie in now. So what's your part of this story then, Charlie?
So my part is basically I have a heart condition as well, but luckily mine is a benign one. So I have an arrhythmia. But it took 17 years for me to get diagnosed. And after I was diagnosed, I started thinking, I wonder if there's anyone else out there under 60 who has similar symptoms or something else going on. So we connected on Instagram, and it was like connecting with Bethany and Hannah opened up this whole community to me of people who'd been through similar things. I spent most of my late teens and 20s in and out of hospital and meeting other people who'd had that experience, albeit for, slightly different conditions. It was like, oh, this is like, we need to get the word out there that we exist. And as an artist, I was like, okay, what can I do that is going to help raise some awareness of this and, hopefully bring people together and give people some more skills and ideas about what to do if someone goes into sudden cardiac arrest. So that's kind of how it all started.
So when you had your diagnosis, was there information available to you then, or did you go out searching for it? How did you start to explore what you had?
Yeah, for me, my sister and I, we started actually, this is bad now that we just said it, we started Googling the condition. And unfortunately, all we found was people our age that had actually died from the condition because they didn't find out that they had it until it was too late. And we started sitting there and realizing like, oh my gosh, like we're lucky to be alive. Like how can all of these people that unfortunately, why are we only finding headlines of kids that are passing away from this? There must be something we can do. And so with our condition, you can easily detect it on an echocardiogram or an EKG where you just put the little stickers all over you. And we're like, oh my gosh, we have to make a difference. And so that's when we started trying to find like people on social media. Unfortunately, we really couldn't find anybody. So we decided to start our own social media account, which was called Heart Charge, to help find people like Charlie and other amazing people we've met, because we were like, oh my gosh, we're lucky to have each other because we're sisters, but there's got to be other people out there. And Google definitely wasn't helping.
Yeah.
Why do you think it was so hard to find, other people then?
I will be honest, especially on this journey, I found that a lot of people actually sometimes don't want to talk about their condition or that they have it. And we actually have a lot of people that reach out and they'll thank us and they're like, thank you so much for sharing about it. And actually, I have this condition and I'm too scared to post about it yet. But thank you for helping me get through this, even though I'm not ready to talk about it. And so that makes you feel like, okay, wow, like I'm glad I can share my story. But unfortunately, I think you find a lot of people that it's just scary for them. They're like not ready to talk about it.
It's quite strange because our podcast goes out to America and we find that people are more clammed up about their illnesses in this country. And we get far more questions from people from America. They seem to want to talk about it a lot more, which is strange hearing you say that, you've experienced the opposite. Yeah,
because honestly, I feel like in the UK, we've met like so many friends over there that talk about it way more.
Yeah, I think since we've been doing the podcast, we've had guests on here that have come and talked about their illness for the first time and really opened up about it. But sometimes it's nice to talk about these things, and we struggle to talk about it. Charlie, so you're an artist, are you?
I am, yeah.
So what got you into art?
Actually, in a strange way, it was kind of tied into having a chronic illness. Because I had my symptoms were so much interfering with my day-to-day life before I was diagnosed that I couldn't really hold down a full-time job. So I ended up working in like much more flexible industries. I got into flash design, which is like graphic design for tattoo artists. So I was a ghost designer for a long time, where you kind of make the designs and then people who are much better known than you get to use them. And so I went into like very flexible kind of jobs and I just loved it. And I love the art school experience. I love the creativity. I've got to meet people from all over the place and take part in all kinds of different projects. So just following the dream, really.
Well, we can see it and the viewers can't. And I called it something different, but what your art form was. But I think it's fantastic, and my wife would love it. So where can people see your paintings?
So my website is charliekirkham.com, and I'm on Instagram as Charlie Kirkham Art.
Yeah, you can view some of these paintings, which are fantastic. So, do you have one of these ICD units on your body then, Charlie?
Fortunately not, because my diagnostic journey is almost the opposite of I had over a decade of having massively intrusive symptoms. And once I was diagnosed, the condition I have is incredibly easy to treat. I just take 3 tablets a day, and I'll just be taking 3 tablets a day for the rest of my life. And, once I hit my 50s, maybe there'll be a few things that need tuning. But otherwise, thankfully, I am very, very lucky that my condition is just a static one.
Do you think there's enough done for you girls and for anybody with what you've got?
I think this is something where we've spoken about, haven't we, where you quite often talk to other women and girls who have heart conditions, and the start of the story is nearly always, it's perfectly normal for girls to faint. You're making a big fuss. Come back if it gets worse. Maybe you're anxious. And this, compared to when you talk to the male patients, is something that is very noticeable.
Bethany, we'll go over to your Heart Charged organization. That's obviously a patient community site, is it? Is there a website to this as well? We've obviously got you on Instagram.
Yeah. So then our website is heartcharge.org.
And you guys set this all up yourselves?
Yeah, it's basically run by my sister and our mom. Thank goodness for her. She's like our rock in all of this. And we do it all ourselves. Everything we've done, honestly, I'll say we've done it by the grace of God, and all the projects and things that we've created. So for example, like the sudden cardiac art exhibition that we just did in the UK, that was honestly came together just truly Charlie. Really, if it wasn't for Charlie, it wouldn't have been possible. But it was something we connected with Charlie on Instagram. She had this amazing idea. And then I think it was like a year in the works that were just on Zooms. And then suddenly we're creating this real life art exhibition in person. And all these wonderful heart patients from our community have shown up to support us. And it was just incredible. So Heart Charge is definitely a patient community. That was why we started it. And then we also bring awareness to the different avenues of living with a heart condition or a chronic illness.
So, Bethany, your condition is hereditary then?
Yeah, it's basically the gene is mutated. So it's a mutation of the gene. Yeah.
So a lot of people will think this is like a pacemaker that you've got, but it's different to a pacemaker, isn't it?
It's different. Yeah. So so I kind of describe it like if you've ever seen in the movies where they put the paddles on and it shocks it. So your heart has to be defibrillated. I will say my defibrillator and my sister's actually can pace us as well. But it has that defibrillation in it because unfortunately our condition, once your heart passes your threshold and it's just shaking, the only thing that will restart it is a shock from the defibrillator.
Has it operated at any time?
Gratefully, mine has not shocked me, but my sister, her defibrillator saved her life twice.
Right.
Wow. So this has been an operation that you've had and put inside, or is it outside?
It's inside.
And how did you feel after having that operation? Was it just a minor surgery?
Yeah, it's pretty minor surgery.
It was a big thing, obviously, but not,
Yeah. It's usually just in the hospital, and sometimes you stay over, sometimes you don't. My first one that I had, it looked like a box on my side. You can see it in the picture that Charlie drew behind, because that's me.
Oh, okay.
That square on my side was my old defibrillator, and people used to be like, "Oh, it looks like you're smuggling an iPhone under your skin," but it's that under my skin, and it was way bigger than I expected it to be. And then I had my second implanted defibrillator. Actually, I'm going to celebrate a year with it in December, and I got that one, and I actually ended up in the hospital for 4 days, which usually doesn't happen, but I had some nerve damage. But it's usually a very easy procedure and you bounce back pretty quickly. Just there's things like no moving your arm for 4 weeks or driving, which can be pretty annoying.
Anything else you have to avoid?
Basically, this whole arm can't do anything for 4 weeks, and that's about it. Yeah.
What about sort of radiation and things like that? Do you have to keep away from all that?
Yeah, so like for example, the like door frames at the like airport, or like when you go into a shopping store and they have like those like things on the side. You don't want to stand by those too long because it's like a metal, and so like if a metal gets too close to it, it could turn off your device. So you don't want that, anything metal. You're not supposed to stand in front of a car when it's running. There's a bunch of little different, like you can't have your iPhone on top of your device. So yeah, little things like that to avoid.
You mentioned broccoli a little while ago.
Oh,
Um, do you have to follow a strict diet?
no, thank goodness, no.
No, so there's
I mean,
no.
it's probably good to be healthy, but no, not really.
So Charlie mentioned she's on 3 tablets. Do you say, Charlie, a day?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you on tablets as well, Bethany?
No, I am gotten off of them. My body wasn't reacting well to the medication.
I'm always interested how much things cost, and a couple of times I've done a rundown of a top 10 of how much my tablets cost and how much my chemotherapy costs. And I don't know, are you aware of how much one of these units costs? One of these ICD units? Would you be aware?
I know how much it costs me in the US, but I don't know actually in the UK.
Well, I'll tell you, it's £9,692 in England.
Wow. My first one was about $25,000.
Wow.
Yeah. Good job you had insurance.
No, yeah, but even with like my first SICD, even that I had really good insurance. Unfortunately, it just costs that much. And then right now in the US, it's like so sad because just to do like my average testing that I have to do every 6 months which is like an echocardiogram, a stress test, an EKG, like that cost me like almost $3,000 just for those tests that I'm supposed to have because of my heart condition. But unfortunately, in America, insurance providers and stuff believe that, oh, she's too young, like she shouldn't have a heart condition. Why are we trying to pay for that much? And we're always in battles with like our insurance companies. And it's like, this is crazy. Like, why don't they look at me? What did my doctor say? My doctor requested this. It's not like I'm just going to do this for fun. So I definitely say America has a lot of work to do.
So is there not any permanent surgery that can be done to rectify this problem, or is it something that you have to live with?
So with HCM, unfortunately, it's something you just have to live with until you qualify for a heart transplant. So the heart transplant is the end all be all, but there's no other cure for the condition.
Can someone or could somebody use a defibrillator on you if you were to collapse in a shopping mall, for argument's sake?
Yeah, so if they, like, let's say I drop and my own defibrillator doesn't kick in, they can use an outside one on me.
Yeah. You say a heart transplant, I heard earlier on. Is that something that's going to come in the future? Is it something necessary?
Yeah, so we don't know. I'll be honest, I was told like 3-4 years ago that a heart transplant was probably in my near future, which was a huge shock to me because I think I lived very like blissfully like, oh my gosh, like I'm never going to need one of those. I'm just going to live with defibrillators the rest of my life. So that was really eye-opening to see. But since that time, I have gotten gone to a couple different doctors just to see like what their point of view is with the condition, because for a long time HCM people didn't really research it, didn't really talk about it, and now it's become like a hot topic. More people are like, wow, there are people living with it, what can we do to change it? So we'll see what happens in like the next 5 to 10 years, and if I will need one, hopefully not, because I think it comes with its own stuff, but if I do, then grateful to have that.
Yeah. Do you and your sister cope in a similar way with the illness, or is one of you better with it than the other?
I think we both definitely have our own ways of coping with it. For example, like if I'm having a really bad day, I have like a really bad shopping addiction. So then I just go buy shoes and clothes to make myself feel better. And if she's having like a really bad day, she like watches TV and eats chocolate. So we definitely cope with it in certain like different things. But I think we both definitely have a really grateful outlook on living with it and trying to push through it. But definitely I think, yeah, there's different things about us, but I think for the most part, very similar how we try to get through it, especially when we're having our bad days.
Yeah. What is in line for the future then, Bethany? What have you got planned for the future? And also Charlie? Is there another art exhibition coming up?
Yeah, Charlie, you tell them about it.
Okay, so we on the back of our UK exhibition, we actually got invited to the States, and in January, the Sudden Cardiac Art exhibition is going to be at the Keck Medical School at the University of Southern California, and that's going to be curated by Ted Mayer over there. So it's exciting. So we're going to have one every year.
Oh, excellent. So how do you get all your art over there then?
Walks over with under his shoulder, Pat.
I just shipped it, and luckily it arrived. The box was a little bit dented, but otherwise everything got there in one piece, which is a big relief. Otherwise, I think Bethany's garage would be filling up very rapidly with pictures being sent to her.
So is there anything that you girls, I mean, are you both allowed to drink alcohol, or perhaps you may not even like alcohol?
My doctor is like, you can drink. I prefer not to drink alcohol, but if you do, he's like, you have to double the amount of water. Like for every like one drink of alcohol, it's like twice the water. But I will say with HCM, we're supposed to avoid all caffeinated drinks. So anything like Red Bull, Celsius, coffee, that we're not allowed to drink at all.
Mine is the opposite. I can drink as much Coca-Cola as I want. I can knock myself out on caffeine, but I cannot have any alcohol. So I don't know who got the better deal, really.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting to hear that, and the difference between the two. It's when you think you've got a very, very similar kind of thing, and but very different at Pat.
So if you're allowed these sodas, or not allowed these sodas, there are sodas now which don't contain caffeine. So you'd be allowed to take something like that, I take it.
Yeah, like a Sprite or something, I think has no. I don't really drink soda that much. I mean, yeah.
So when you go to the supermarket, are you forever looking at the things, or do you actually know what's got it in and what hasn't?
I think I kind of know. I will say though, one time when you guys know what Celsius is?
Nope.
Okay, so Celsius, it's really popular here in America. It's like you guys know what Red Bull is?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like a Red Bull, but when it came out, it was promoted like a carbonated drink. So one time I was like, oh my gosh, everybody's drinking them. They have great flavors. So I tried one, and then I went to dance class and I'm like, oh my gosh, my heart. Come to find out, it has like major caffeine, like really, really bad for you. I drink the whole thing. And so now I definitely, since that story, I know what I like and I'm like, okay, lemonade or something like that. Or I look at the bottle, because that was a scary incident. So.
Well, I think public awareness of your complaint is critical, really, because we know it's hereditary, so we're relying on family members to pass that information down. Mm-hmm. But when you found out you'd got this problem, your aunt suggested that you got checked. Well, you'd been alive 17 years, so why did it take so long?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, for her, so my aunt had like a valve replacement and other heart issues. And it wasn't until she was like in her 50s and she was complaining of symptoms that her doctors said, oh, well, that makes sense because of your hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And she's like, my what? And it was in her chart the whole time that she had this heart condition, but she was never told about it or the symptoms she was having. So then when she has no kids of her own, so she told my mom, like, hey, go get the kids checked. And then when we found out which ones of us had it, when we look back at the symptoms that make up HCM, me and my sister both had those symptoms. And they were all symptoms that my mom told our pediatrician that we were having. And he honestly dismissed them. Like Charlie said, me and my sister both had fainting episodes. And my pediatrician was like, that's normal for girls your age. Like, don't even worry about it. And really overlooked us. And so we were super lucky to blissfully live, I think, our childhood. And we even laugh because we used to be like, we can see our heart beating. And then our brothers used to be like, just eat another popsicle because you're too skinny. But come to find out, we're living with a deadly heart condition. So Unfortunately, because nobody put two and two together, a young person in a heart condition, it was just overlooked.
It's very interesting. And so has this I'll ask the same question to Charlie as well, and you, Bethany. Has this put you off having children for the future then?
I actually already have one. And another one, like, imminently.
What about you, Bethany?
So that's actually something that's talked about now with having HCM, and it also like breaks your heart a little bit because now doctors are like, oh, well, we can go in and pick all the eggs that don't have HCM or however it works. So I don't know how it perfectly works, but and then it's like, wait, now I'm like playing my hand and saying that just because they have HCM, they shouldn't get to live or something like that. So it's really hard. It's something that I've definitely been going back and forth with, because you don't want to take away that chance just because now you know that they have something. So that breaks my heart. So definitely something I would never do. But yeah, I think if I lived with it, I would hope to be there for my kid if they had it too.
Yeah. And so, Charlie, will you have regular checkups for your?
So my son just had his final checkup. My son is 5 already. He had his final checkup about 6 months ago. And luckily his heart's completely normal. The electrics are all in the right place.
Brilliant.
So we were lucky with that. And then my next baby, they're going to do an ECG as soon as the baby is born and do like enhanced monitoring for the first few months. But my condition is considered to have a genetic component, but not to be genetic. But actually, since I was diagnosed, the doctors have basically been like, if you're worried about your kids, we're happy to do all of the extra checks on them. So even though my son had absolutely no symptoms at all, they said, bring him in, we'll do all the checks because we don't want you to worry about it. Which was great. So honestly, the pediatric teams have been amazing. And like Bethany says, with the genetic testing, I did the anomaly scans and they did extra checks this time round with this pregnancy. But my husband and I decided we didn't want to go down the IVF route and do loads and loads of screening because ultimately we thought, we'll just see what happens and just go with it.
So you're about to have another child soon then, Charlie, are you?
I am, yes.
What's the due date? Can you tell us?
2 days' time.
What?
Oh, wow.
You're actually due on Wednesday.
We got this interviewing in time, didn't we?
So, yeah.
If you have to dash off, we'll know why.
Yeah, if I have to make a run through, you'll know my waters have got.
We wish you well anyway.
Thank you.
Do you both have a positive mental attitude?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And another positive mental attitude, if I'm having a bad day, I just talk to Hannah or Bethany and then I feel better. So I'd say like, if you feel like you've got people around you, then it's much easier. So
Well done. So that about covers all my questions.
Yeah,
I don't know about you. Have you got anything else you'd like to add, ladies?
No, just definitely follow us on Instagram and definitely check out the Sudden Cardiac Art Instagram. And we have a website, suddencardiacart.com. And then definitely make sure to follow Charlie and to make sure to follow Heart Charged.
I'm going to look up Charlie straight away, actually.
She's amazing.
Well, it's been brilliant talking to you both. And we never fail to learn something on this podcast.
We're getting new topics every sort of week, and this has been a brand new topic, and I've learned a lot. I mean, it's been more aligned to what Patrick's got with his heart conditions and things like that, or no, completely different again. So thank you both you, Charlie and Bethany.
well, thank you so much for having us. It's been wonderful talking to you guys, and I love the positivity in the podcast and everything you're trying to do, get messaging out there.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, Patrick, that was interesting, wasn't it?
That was very interesting. For the two twins, I mean, I know Hannah couldn't make it today. Bethany certainly gave us a real insight into this issue that she has. That's amazing, really, when you think that you can have something planted in your chest that will restart your heart like that.
Yeah. And I'm asked the question, being similar to a pacemaker, and if anybody wants to know, the ICD is larger, and that sends the energy shock to reset an abnormal heart, whereas a pacemaker doesn't do that. So that's the difference. It just keeps your heart rate to a regular rhythm.
There was talk about me having one of those when I went in for my first heart attack. After I had all my resus and everything and went up to the ward, a nurse came round and said, "Oh, you think you're going to have a pacemaker?" That left the room and I went to sleep at about 11 o'clock at night. And then I never ever heard that message again.
People do change their opinions. First of all, they thought you might have to. Secondly, not. As I said, I had to go to the hospital the other day and I was just going to go home. And then suddenly they said, oh, no, you've got to have antibiotics because you caught the pneumonia last time. So these medical people, they do look at things and change things. So
that brings us to the end of the podcast this week. No time for a joke of the week, I'm afraid.
Yes.
Well, thanks very much, everybody, for listening. I hope you enjoyed Bethany's and Charlie's story there. We certainly did.
I did.
And we will be back next week.
We certainly will be back next week with another interesting topic and a different topic again. Thanks very much, Pat. Nice chatting to you.
And you, mate. Cheers. See you next
Bye,
week,
everybody.
guys.
Bye.
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 You've been listening to the Who's Tom and Dick podcast with your hosts, Martin Weavers and Patrick Mortimer. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite streaming platform. New episodes are available every Friday. Thanks for tuning in.